It feels like we're living in an age that's just obsessed with inequality, right? But here's the kicker. What if I told you that when you actually give people the choice, most of them, they don't want a perfectly equal society? Today, we're going to dig into that incredible paradox and see what it tells us about our deepest sense of what's truly fair. All right, so first up, let's dive right into this central paradox that kind of frames our entire discussion. And trust me, it's a real head scratcher. So, on the one hand, you hear it everywhere, from world leaders, from activists, all over the news. It's constantly called the defining challenge of our time. And look, when you see the numbers, you can totally see why. Globally, the top 1% of the population owns a whopping 50% of all the wealth. I mean, when you hear a stat like that, it makes perfect sense why so many people are demanding more equality.
Okay, but this is where the whole thing gets kind of weird. A whole bunch of research has found that when you ask people, hey, build your ideal society from the ground up, they don't choose perfect equality. Not even close.
This all comes from a super famous study. And when they asked Americans to build their ideal society, the result was just fascinating. Take a look at that third bar, the ideal one. Even in their perfect world, people wanted the richest 20% to have way more than the poorest 20%. So yeah, they want things to be more equal than they are now, for sure, but they absolutely do not want perfect equality. This leaves us with a huge question, right? If we're all so worried about the gap between the rich and the poor, why is it that when we dream up a better world, it's still an unequal one? Okay, to get to the bottom of this, we've got to look at our own psychology. Because it turns out there's some really powerful evidence from lab studies that suggest we have this deep, built-in instinct for equality. And in these controlled experiments, our preference for equality is, well, it's incredibly strong. People will often choose a situation where everything is split perfectly evenly, even if it means turning down another option where everybody would have gotten more, just because that other option was unequal.
Let's look at a classic study with kids, because this really shows how deep this runs. So imagine two boys do a great job cleaning up a room, and you've got three racers to give them as a prize. You can't split three things between two people evenly. So what do you think the kids do? What's the most common solution they come up with? Get ready for this, because the answer is pretty wild. The majority of 6-year-olds in the study said the extra eraser should just be thrown away. They'd literally rather waste something than create a situation where one person gets more than the other. And it's not just a weird thing 6-year-olds do. We see evidence of this bias everywhere. Studies show even babies are surprised when they see things shared unequally. Kids and adults will go out of their way to punish people who don't share equally. And we see this across tons of different cultures. It's a powerful instinct. Okay, so hold on. We have this super strong, deep-seated instinct for equality, but we still say we want an unequal society. How does that make any sense? Well, the answer isn't about equality at all. It's about a different and way more powerful human drive. Well, here's the big reveal. The researchers behind all this argue we've been mixing up two totally different ideas. Our gut moral feeling. It's not actually about equality. It's about fairness. And the difference between the two is it's actually pretty simple, but it changes everything. Equality just means everyone gets the same thing, same outcome, no matter what. But fairness? Fairness is about people getting what they deserve. It's about things being proportional. Okay, so let's rewind and go back to that eraser experiment. But this time, let's add a little twist. What happens if the kids are told that one of the boys worked way harder than the other one? And just like that, everything changes. The result totally flips. The kids don't throw the eraser away anymore. Overwhelmingly, they give that extra eraser to the boy who put in more work. They choose an outcome that is fair but unequal. And this powerful, deep-seated preference for fairness, that's the key that unlocks the whole puzzle of how we think about wealth and society in the real world. See, the reason most of us are okay with some level of inequality isn't because we dislike equality. It's because we intuitively believe that in the real world, people's contributions just aren't equal. And so a fair system from that point of view is one that rewards different levels of effort and skill differently. And this whole idea is tied up in something we call meritocratic mobility. We're a lot more willing to accept an unequal world if we believe the game is fair, that anyone, no matter where they start, has a real shot at rising to the top if they've got the talent and they work hard. But here's the catch. The problem is, our idea of what's fair might be way off from what's actually happening.
In the US, for example, people tend to think there's a lot more social mobility than there really is. The chance of earning more than your parents has actually plummeted, from over 90% for kids born in 1940 down to just 50-50 for those born in 1980.
So, after all that, what are we supposed to take away from this? Why does this whole fairness versus equality thing even matter?
Well, the bottom line is this. Our internal moral compass, it's not really pointing to equality. It's pointing to fairness. And when those two things are in conflict, fairness almost always wins. This suggests that when people get angry about the economy, it's not because inequality exists. It's because they feel the system is rigged, that the outcomes are just fundamentally unfair. Maybe we've been focusing on the wrong word all along.
Now, reframing the debate like this, it doesn't just hand us all the easy answers, but it does leave us with a much bigger and I think much more important question to think about. If perfect equality isn't the destination, what are the rules we should use to build a world that's truly fair for everyone? Thanks for watching.